Alright guys, thank you for joining me here, the Mule at the Roomy Alliance, for another one of my Feral Druid guides, talking about stats for the Bear Druid. So I just want to start things off with a nice little quote I found. The majority of bosses that are difficult to progress mostly come down to, can your healer heal it? So anything that you can do that makes your healer's job easier will make progression easier. So, boils down to gear the way you want to, because it's your character, but also know that what works for you might not work for somebody else. So don't go flaming people because they don't believe the same thing you believe, or play the same way you play, or play with the same people you play with. Starting off, I want to talk about armor. Total bear form armor contributions can be boiled down to your armor plus an additional 10% multiplied by 5 plus 2 times your agility plus your magical armor. This is your 10% from your thick hide talent, and this is from a 3% additional stats from survival of the fittest. Just so you know, as you can see by the formula, the agility, the armor bonus you get is not multiplied by thick hide or by the bear form. And magic armor is not multiplied by anything, and that includes armor kits, enchants, buffs, pots, anything else that isn't just armor on your gear, including popping a trinket if you have one of those. If you could look at this formula, you can simplify it down as 1 base armor is the same as 5.5 bear armor, but if you're looking at your armor in caster form and you try and multiply it by 5.5, it won't be the same, and that's because of your agility bonus over here. And if you have Blessing of Kings, always try and run with a paladin. He makes everything better for you as a druid. You multiply 2 times your agility times 1.133. That's the formula we'll be using a lot, 1.133. You'll see it again later. So if you want to know about your DR using armor, you use this formula here, armor over a bunch of nonsense. Don't even know where those numbers come from, but that's just what it is. You use 73 for the level of the boss, or you can use 70. We're multiplying by here to get a percentage for percentage reduction. You don't have to do that if you're just looking for a decimal value. So looking at some numbers here versus a level 73 or a level 70, level 960 is going to give you the 50% against 73s. You got 60%, you got 70%, and armor cap against a level 73 is going to be 35,880 at 75%, or 31,673. And just so you know, if you're looking at your armor in bear while you're sitting around and you see 31,673 and it says you're capped at 75, no, you're not. You're looking at level 70 mobs. That's what your stat sheet is going to tell you. It's different for level 73 mobs, or 71s or 72s, whatever content you're running. So there's a lot of people out there that thinking that armor diminishing returns. I just want to show you some stuff using armor and time to live calculations. So we're going to start out at base 50% armor, adding 3,000 armor at every step. You can see that DR percent goes down. So this is your DR over here. Every 3,000 armor, 5, 4, 3, 3, 2. So almost giving you less than half over down at this level here. It gives the appearance that armor has diminishing returns, like I said, but if you want to look at time to live calculations, you do it a little bit differently, using the same numbers for armor. This is assuming a level 70 mob that's attacking you. Oh, you are level 70, sorry. Fighting against a 73 who does 100 DPS, you have 100 HP. The numbers don't really matter, you can do it with any numbers. We're going to be showing this how it affects your time to live here. You'll see that the incoming DPS that you take decreases, and your time to live increases at exactly the same amount every 3,000 armor you gain. I mean, this number is an outlier. There were some hanging numbers out there, little decimals that don't really matter, but 2.51 per armor, it doesn't matter what numbers you use, you can do these calculations yourself, and you'll see that for time to live, the value of armor linearly increases at a static rate, while DR percent will reduce. That's what I just said. So, looking at avoidance next. So total avoidance is going to be your agility divided by 14.7, your dodge rating divided by 18.9, defense rating by 2.4, multiplied by 0.04, and I'll talk about that part at the end there in a minute. Again, survival of the fittest. If you got kings, substitute a different number in there, 1.133, I think it was. Yeah, right here, blessing of kings. So you can see that 14.7 agility is 1 dodge, but if you have blessing of kings, you're going to be getting about 1 dodge per 13 agility. So it's a pretty big difference. 10% obviously, right? I know I chopped this decimal off here and here, but the exact number is 14.73 right here. Dodge. So every defense you have is going to give you 0.04 dodge, 0.04 anti-crit or crit resistance, and 0.04 miss. Although miss calculation, I'm going to show that here in just a minute, is quite a bit differently. Defense, you can actually calculate as 2.37 per rating. I know I calculated it up here as 2.4. Most people are going to be using 2.4, rounding it up. I rounded my numbers off in this equation here. But if you want to get really picky with it, because if you do some stuff later, I'll show you more about defense, you're going to be thinking that you need more defense than you need, because that 0.03 can make a difference at high levels of defense. But just know, 25 defense, 60 rating equals 1 dodge, miss, and crit reduction. So that's why we divide by 2.4, because it's 2.4 per rating, and you're going to be looking at rating right here. And then we multiply by 0.04 to get the amount. And dodge rating, you're looking at 18.9 dodge rating per percent of dodge, so 0.05%. You can clearly see here that just straight dodge rating isn't something you'll be stacking, with agility being the prime thing that you'd want here. 0.07, 0.05. This last part of the equation here is the boss's mischance. So every boss, level 73, is going to have, level 70 also, is going to have a 5% chance to miss you. But whether you have defense skill or not is going to change this entire equation to either you have defense skill and it's higher than the creature's attack rating, which would be 365 for level 73 here. So we would add it, and you can see that 15 of your defense rating is actually just being resisted by the boss. So instead of getting 2.6, which is what this would normally give you, you're getting 2, so you get 7%. So your first 15 defense rating is actually mitigated by the boss being a higher level than you. Where down here, if you don't have any defense rating at all, it's actually taking off rating from you. So it's only multiplied at 0.02, so the tanks out there that use resilience, it's not a huge difference because it's going to only be a 0.3%. And like I just said, your first 15 defense skill does not add anything. Alright, so total average damage taken percent per hit. So this first equation is using a chance to be crushed, including with your chance to be hit. Personally, I just use your avoidance times your armor rating. And I'll show you why here right now. It's because, while you would think, because your crushing blow is always going to be 15 here, right? 15, 15, 15, 15. That's because as you increase your avoidance chance, your crushing blow chance does not go down until it gets completely pushed off the table, which is what crushing blow for other tanks is what they're doing right here, pushing crushing blows off the table to a 0%. Doesn't work for druids, so if you get hit, say when you have 60% avoidance, you're thinking there's a 25% chance it's a hit, and a 15% chance it's a crushing. So it's almost 50-50, right? At this point, it's totally 50-50 at 70. But the damage difference, on average, I mean, it doesn't sound like it makes sense, but this is how it is, because it also includes your armor, and it's talking about how you're just not getting hit at all. So just completely avoid the math of crush and to be hit, and just use your avoidance to calculate your percent damage taken. So damage reduction from armor and avoidance are multiplicative. Therefore, we can come up with this formula here, which is negative armor over chance to be hit, which shows us that the value of avoidance increases the more avoidance we have. So you might assume that 1% increases will always have the same value because it's just 1% chance to take less damage. But I know we were looking earlier at those charts that make you think, well, when I take more damage, no, you take significantly less damage, and the more you have it, the more it's multiplied by your armor's effect, and just significantly increases your time to live the more avoidance you have. And I'll look more into this later as we do some time to live calculations and looking at effective health. But over here, same graph with armor on this, you see that it is that flat level that we were talking about earlier with armor. Here's another chart. The exact same calculation went into this one, except for this is against the level 70. So the numbers are going to be a little bit differently than if you're using a level 73. And what the formula shows you is armor estimate points, which is what the AEP stands for. And you can see that the value of one dodge increases at higher levels of dodge. But you can also see that it increases with more armor as well. Here it is, the value of dodge first, increasing by 18, 21, 23, 26 points. So you can see that upward curve. And then for armor increasing, you'll see that this value is exactly 26 between each of these steps in the armor. So it's a very linear increase in your value that you get from it. Alright, so a big question every druid is going to be asking themselves when they're looking at gear and gems and enchants. Do I want defense? Do I want resilience? I hear resilience is great for bears. I hear defense sucks because I don't get the parry and the block that other tanks are going to get. Yes, you get a significantly reduced value from defense. However, you still get value from defense, where resilience really gives you no value beyond crit immunity. So if you're going to be overcapped, you want defense. So this is how you calculate your crit reduction. It's going to be your defense divided by that 2.3. Sorry, this should be a 7. I had rounded it off a little bit earlier. It goes 2.36 blah blah blah. Right here, 2.3654 rounded up to 7 is what you should be using. Plus your resilience divided by 39.4. It also gives you 1% less damage from dots. This is almost a non-issue. It also reduces the damage you take from critical hits, but if you're crit immune, why bother talking about it here? So, for a druid with all the points to survival of the fittest, going to give you that 3% crit reduction, so you're crit resistant at 2.6% additional rating, which is 65. And that's going to be 154 defense rating. And this number here, if you were using 2.4, it would actually come up a little bit higher, I think. No, I think it would come out at 154. But, so using the 2.365, you'll see that it's going to give you this extra 0.72. And the way the game calculates it, it's going to chop off all those extra integers and just give you 153. So you need to get that extra 1 to actually become crit immune. Where resilience over here, you're going to need 103 resilience to be uncrittable versus 154. So you need quite a bit less of it, and it's actually itemized the same, and I'll talk about that in a minute. If you don't put points into survival of the fittest, or 1% per point, so 1 point is going to require an additional 25 defense or 59-60 rating. I say 59 or 60 because of those integers that get cut off. So 1 defense rating may or may not take into account depending on where you're at or what you have for resilience. Of course, completely different thing. But again, 39.4 resilience or 25 defense. And then if you have 0 points in it, you're going to need 221 resilience or 140 defense. And that's going to be 332, where if you were using the 2.4 in this equation right here, I think it would tell you that you need 336 defense. So you can see it's kind of a loose number, but this is the most accurate way to calculate it, 2.37 per defense rating. So, like I said earlier, they have the same defense and resilience have the same itemization costs on a piece of gear. So, like enchant chest, there's 2 enchants, major resilience and defense. Both give you 15 points. One gives you a 0.375 crit resistance. The other one gives you 0.25. But you get dodge and miss on top of that. Where gemstones, these are both yellow gems, and they both give you 8. One is 0.2, the other one 0.13. If your goal is solely to become anti-crit, or crit resistant, maybe you have some pieces that are giving you defense, or you're just like off by a little bit, and you need that little bit, resilience is going to get you there faster. So, just looking at gemstones, I don't know how you'd have this many sockets on your gear, but if you had 20 of them, you would need to fill all 20 of them with defense gems, or 13 of them with resilience gems to hit that crit immunity. Again, like I said, resilience has 0 value beyond getting that crit immunity, where defense, like here, an additional gem, if you're already immune to crit, would be 0.13 and 0.13, so 0.26 avoidance, which at higher gear levels would be great, except for you would never slap an 8 defense rating in there because you can get an 8 agility gem, you just don't get the matching bonus, but that would be miles better than this. Obviously 8 agility is like a half an avoidance versus 0.26. Don't even think about slapping defense gems or resilience gem in your gear if you're already capped. Here's a nice little macro. I'll put it down below. If you're playing the game, just copy, paste this, run it, and it will pop out your chance to be crit. So, like we just said, is it the best? So, itemization, I'm not the best at, but it should be equal to about 80 stamina. Or, we're talking about that difference in 7 gems. 13 versus 20, 82 stamina from 7, 12 stam gems. Or 56 agility. It's supposed to be about 53 item level, is 53 agility. It's not perfect. So, what do you lose by going with resilience? You're going to lose 4.9% avoidance by solely gearing for your anti-crit through resilience. And that's because instead of 2.6, 2.6, only your first 15 defense skill counts to your dodge, so you're only losing 2. And, of course, this over here is because when the boss has higher attack rating than you, he gets an additional 3% chance to hit you. 0.3% chance to hit you. So, the gear looks good, I think, to gear for resilience. And the PvP gear, 2-piece set bonus, gives you tons of it. So, yes, lower gear levels, the stamina that you can get from those item levels that you're gaining from stacking resilience is going to be huge for you. Honestly, the best, probably way better than having the defense and this additional almost 5% avoidance. Whereas at the higher gear levels, maybe, because the agility is going to give you a little bit more threat and damage and some armor, but it's only 4.3 avoidance versus the 4.9. It's kind of a toss-up. It's really hard to itemize for defense. So, you just got to do what you got to do. And remember, it's kind of negligible either way, just based on a solely itemization standpoint. But know that there is slightly more value in having that defense. So, like I said, it's up for you to decide what you have available to you and your enchants and the gear and how much PvP you're willing to do to get that resilience. I know there's some pieces from dungeons that have resilience on them also. Moving next to stamina here. So 1 stamina for you in caster form is going to be 10 HP. Heart of the Wild is an additional 20%. Bear form, 25%. Survival of the Fittest is 3%. It means in bear form, you're going to have 15.45 per stamina. Increased for torrents is 16.2. With that kings, an additional 10%. You're looking at almost 17 for the night elves and 17.8 for the taurens. So you can see that a druid is going to have just crazy amounts of stamina and HP compared to the warrior, and definitely compared to the paladin, because paladin gears got less of it on it than the other guys because of how their stuff is itemized. So you can see it's about 50% increase over everybody else. And for time to live calculations, this is just fantastic for you. We're going to look at that here now. Just showing that agility, what am I saying? Assuming all damage can be mitigated by armor, and yes. So these calculations are showing a boss that's hitting you for physical damage without any magical or anything like that. So you calculate your effective health by your health pool divided by your damage taken percent. And we can show that stamina as a constant linear value, and this formula over here that I got from Task, thank you for still being in existence on the Wayback Net, shows that at a certain threshold, depending on where you're at with the avoidance, gemming an 8 agility is more beneficial than a stamina gem on a pure time to live calculation. assuming no damage from magic attacks and things again. So you can see, even at lower avoidance chances, you're going to be getting more benefit from dodge eventually, just because of how the calculation works. And then over here, you don't need that high of a health pool if you have around that 50-60% avoidance, but you're not going to want to have that little health ever as a druid, and higher content where you would have 50% avoidance, I mean. But yes, this just shows you how the increasing value of avoidance works for time to live again. And like I said, you have the two scenarios: huge health, low dodge; low health, huge dodge. So we'll look at how that calculation actually works here. Scenario 1, I'm going to be using 66% armor reduction for all of these, and then using 50% dodge here. So this gives you an effective health of 105.8, and you can see that if you add an agility gem, getting about 0.06 that we're multiplying in here to avoid the attack, so that would give you 0.071, versus if you added stamina, another 185 health approximately. You can see that this avoidance gem would be more valuable for your time to live and effective health. Scenario 2, saying that you only have a 20% chance to be hit with that low dodge, an 80% chance to be hit, 20% dodge. So, doing the same thing, adding 0.06, you can see that you go from 661 to 666, versus adding that extra health. Makes a big difference. Much better to gem more stamina at this gear level. Now, another scenario. What if you have 30,000 health instead of the 18,000 we had the last two at this low dodge level? Yeah. So we get 110 versus 111 for getting that 0.06 more avoidance. And then down here, adding 185 HP to the same thing gives you 110.8 versus the 111. So you can see that at this huge level of health and the low dodge, gaining more dodge will actually make you live longer than adding even more stamina on top of your ridiculous health pool. So as you can see, here's just a quick showing you how the stamina actually works if you were just stacking more stamina and your changes to your effective health. You can see that adding 5,000 health at each of these tiers gives the exact same bonus. So you can see that it is a linear increase to your time to live. And really the only thing that increases in value the more you have of it is the dodge. And again, I want to talk about magic attacks, special attacks, burst, and stuff. So the biggest drawback of the Druid is your chance to be crushed, right? So we looked earlier at that chart that said if you have a 25% chance to be hit, 15 of that will be crush, 10 of that will be a regular hit. So you're prone to some spiky damage and some bad luck with a Druid, which is why that huge health pool really helps. And then that chart showing that there was only a 7.5% difference between the chart looking at with crushing and not crushing, and that's because it just averages out your total damage that you'd be taking over an infinite period of time. Like I said, it was an average, so it doesn't have anything to do with whether you take back-to-back crushing blows or you parry haste the boss. Double parry hasting the boss will reduce the attack time down to 0.6 seconds so if he hits you and you somehow get 2 hits in, maybe he powers your swipe or something. I'm just saying, the worst possible situation on a boss like Curator, who would be hitting you for around 3,000 damage. For the 2 crushing blows back to back would be 9k for 1.5 times the 3. In 0.66, if you weren't topped off and you were only maybe 14k health in the first place or something around there, this could kill you if your druids or your healers don't get you topped off. But that's why it's really important to always think about your health pool that you have and how hard you can get crushed in a short period of time. And also the druid's health pool helps them deal with magical attacks that are also thrown in there, as you can't mitigate the magical attacks.